Hi everybody, Pastor Tim here, and this is the message recap, rewind, and bonus features from the message we had here at Calvary Church in Pueblo on October 24th. And in that message, we were looking at the word sanctification. Now, the week before, we looked at the word justification, and we know that justification is an act whereby God sees you as sinless because of the forgiveness he has through Christ. Sanctification, on the other hand, is a process, not an action, but a process in which we become more and more like Jesus every day. And because we saw that there is this massive problem we have, if we are sinless before God, justification, why do we still sin? Why do we still struggle with these things that surround us every day, with the temptations and fall to it? And we saw from Paul in Romans chapter 7, a chapter about a very spiritual believer struggling with knowing what the law says, knowing what is right and good and acceptable before God, and struggling sometimes to do it. He does the very thing he knows he shouldn't do, and the very things that he should do, he doesn't do it. And he falls into this trap of sin happens. And you can read and see in those words in Romans 7 just this heartache that Paul has for wanting to live a holy life, but knowing that he still struggles with this sin that we should put to death, that we should ignore, that we know better, but we do it anyway. And we saw at the end of Colossians, in fact, it was Colossians chapter 3, verse 15 through 17, Paul gives us additional instructions on how to live this Christian life, even though we struggle with sin, even though we know that we've died to sin, that we are made holy, and he gives us incredible practical things to do. Stop doing this and start doing this. What I did not get to, bonus features, is a passage in the book of Peter. It's 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 14, and sometimes we can think of this cycle that we are fully justified before God as if we've never sinned, but yet we struggle with sin. How do we wrestle with those two things? And sometimes I think we can get tired of that struggle, and we give up on facing those temptations, fighting them, and overcoming them, because it's so much easier to give in to them. And so I think Peter has something really wise to tell us. And this is obviously inspired by God's word, or inspired by God, and it is his word. And so in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 14, listen to these final words of Peter. Last things he's written to us. He says, "Therefore, beloved," talking about this family of God, believers, "Therefore, beloved, since you are waiting for these things," that is, the Lord's coming, "be diligent to be found by him without spot or blemish and at peace." I think Peter needed to do this to kind of wake us up and say, you need to be diligent. There is reason and cause for you to fight this fight, for you to strive against temptation, to consider all these things of our former life dead to us, no longer having power over us, no longer controlling us, no longer consuming us. There is reason for it. So be diligent. There is effort in the Christian life. The Christian can't just simply go, God will take care of it, and shrug your shoulders and stop being responsible. You need to be responsible. You need to fight this fight. You need to strive towards loving God and loving others. You need to strive in evangelism and overcoming embarrassment. You need to strive in being bold and speaking the truth in love. You need to strive at it. You need to be diligent. Be found by him without spot or blemish and at peace. I love how Peter puts at the end of there, and be at peace. Because when we are striving to please God, loving him and loving others, when we are striving to sin less and less, when we are striving to be like Jesus, I think we are overwhelmed with peace and comfort, joy and excitement about the Christian life, but we know that we are fulfilling our responsibility of being God's child. And when we fulfill that responsibility, we are at peace. I hope this has inspired you to watch the entire video. You can see it on our website. You can see it on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching this little video, you know how to get there. And join us this coming Sunday as we end our series of church words based on the vote that we had Sunday morning from the people here at church and online. We are looking at the final church wordy type of thing, God's will. And we're going to look at how do we figure that out? How do we find His will? How do we walk in it? So until next weekend, have a great day.